Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Cinema Wave podcast here at the Culture Wave Media Network. And once again, we are talking episode 2 of season 2 of Apple TV Plus's Severance. I am one of your hosts. My name is Darian Scalamoni. I am joined once again by Liz Seiko.
Hello.
And Michael Peniston.
Hello, everybody.
So Liz had a lot of theories last week. She has more theories this week. My theory was completely wrong. After 1 week, I said we're not going to see the outies for maybe an extra week.
Mm-hmm.
We just start right off with the outies. We get a whole episode essentially of the outies.
We didn't get to see the innies.
And I think it was cool though that it's essentially serving kind of as like a 2-part premiere, because we have like the premiere with the innies and the premiere with the outies, and we're seeing what both of them have been up to, and you see the other side of it from the outies perspective in this episode. I preferred this episode to the premiere. I think they were both great, but I like this episode a bit more. Liz, how did you feel? Just broad thoughts about this episode.
I liked both episodes equally. I think, well, this is the first one that we got like the new opening sequence for, too.
Yes, we did. We got the opening credits.
Yes.
You gotta love the Severance opening
I
credits.
love it. It's so
It's
weird.
very cool.
It's so bizarre. But no, I think that both episodes for me are kind of on the same playing field, because it's still just, they're just two different worlds that they're now trying to establish of where everybody's heads are at. And yeah, I have theories. There are some things I was like kind of wrong about already, but I mean, I just love this show and I can't wait to talk about what our theories are.
Michael, how do you feel?
I'm kind of on the same page. I feel like season 1 was just such a great introduction to the season 1. What am I saying? Episode 1 was a great introduction to the season, and just certain stylistic things I just think stand out over this episode, whereas the story in this episode is obviously taken a step further, which I appreciate more. I don't know. I just feel like this world that we're in, like you can't like you said, you can't really like put it as one world, because it's like two distinct.
Yeah,
it is. So the way that they're able to do that and still have you hooked on both sides is just incredible. I'll just kind of leave it at that.
Yeah, the world building in the show is like beyond pretty much anything else that's on television right now.
Yeah.
Maybe in TV and film.
Yeah.
Dan Erickson obviously does a great job. Have either of you guys watched the after things for either episode?
No, I
did for
didn't
this
watch
one.
them.
But it's so cool to just see sort of how their thought process is, and there's a lot of like it's a big show online, obviously. Like a lot of people love talking about theories, a lot of people like trying to figure out what's happening, and we're along for the ride with these characters who also have no idea what's going on, which you don't see that a lot in television, obviously. Just starting, I guess, with where we end up in the beginning of this episode and some of the things that we kind of touch on. We get, like I said, we get at least one experience with all of our outies in this episode. And we also have Mr. Milchick doing all his check-ins on everybody post the season 1 finale on where their whereabouts were and what they saw. And some people get fired. Some people they want to retain for certain reasons. I thought Tramell Tillman, I think that obviously everybody's great in the show. This dude as Milchick is so good, man. And he's really, really good in this episode by doing something different than what we've already seen previously with his character, because he's obviously not severed. He is himself when he's in Lumen and when he's outside of Lumen. But there's a different quality to the way he approaches all of these characters and what they're going through and how he has to kind of do damage control for Helena and for the Egans in general. So, Michael, how did you feel about that whole sequence of him kind of going to all the individual outies and dealing with them per se?
Yeah, no, I really loved it. He's definitely right now one of my favorite characters, just because of the range, how he can go from so Mr. Rogers to like absolutely terrifying. And so it was really cool to see him in this outie world and still being himself to a degree, but also that interaction that he had. I really appreciated the interaction between him and names are terrible. Irving. Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know where I got Bert from.
Well, Bert's his lover.
That's
His
right.
lover.
Christopher Walken. Yeah.
That's right. I really appreciated that. Just I feel like there's a lot of tension there, a lot of really pent up tension that we're obviously going to see escalate throughout this season. But it was just really cool. Also, I just feel like Adam's character, there's so much there, him coming back to the job even before it and all of that story. And so I don't know. There's a lot to say, but I really appreciate his character. His character is the strongest, I feel, of all the characters in this show.
Yeah, and Adam Scott actually talked in an interview about how he said like a role like this is one that he's been waiting to play for such a long time to give him an opportunity to kind of show his dramatic chops. Liz, how did you feel about that whole sequence and maybe the job that Adam Scott's doing so far this season?
Well, the sequence of them, like it being revealed to us, I knew it, by the way. I called it that they lied and that there was because they were like, oh, it's been like 5 months and you guys are all famous. And I was like, you can't trust anything that these people are saying.
Yeah.
And like I had pointed out that if it had been 5 months, like why was he just moving into his like new office? So when it was revealed that like all this is happening like the next day or like literally hours after.
I think it was a few days maybe.
No.
Yeah, because they had to bring everybody else in too.
No, but she's in the same dress.
Who is?
Helena.
Oh yeah, but
When
I'm
they're
saying
like,
for right away. But I'm saying I think it took them maybe a couple of days to bring everybody back into the office.
Yeah, I would think it took like 3 or 4.
Yeah.
But
yes.
like,
you're saying the continuous part of when you were saying the part when Milchick moves into the office, but that's a few days after.
Yeah, like 4. But they were saying that it's been 5 months. You guys are famous.
Yes, that obviously, yes.
I was like, no way. All these people are just liars out here. Like they truly can't trust them. Which I was also really happy about, that they were just picking it up right from where they left off, because I think what we're gonna get a ton of like drama from is Mark's sister. And she is holding a lot in right now. And I'm very interested to see what she does. And if she goes against Mark's wishes of meddling and trying to help and like figure out what's going on. Or if she just is like, you know what, this isn't my fight. And I'm just going to trust these people. Because that was one of my favorite scenes when he showed up to their house and like the picture of the wife is out. And
she covers it with the scarf.
Yeah. At first I was like, somebody better get rid of that thing. Otherwise they're going to know. They're going to know that he knows. And so when she covers it, she's like the only person that's really connecting the dots of like, I think how fucked like Lumon is, honestly. But then it also solidified that they actually have no idea what happened that night. Like they don't really know the damage that was done, which Mark was also talking about in the first episode. He's like, they don't know what happened. So we need to keep this like under wraps and like quiet of like what came out.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see if they just kind of like, well, she is being followed though, because when they were in that diner scene in this last episode,
the bodyguard type guy is sitting there listening in on their conversation. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot in this episode. There's a lot.
So much.
So I wrote a lot of things down, and I want to preface that another YouTube channel, Screen Crush, they do a great job like deep diving and theorizing on a lot of these things, but a lot of it seems really. Like, it all makes sense to me. One of the first things that caught me off guard was when his sister asks what her name is. And it's a very odd name. It's Persephone.
Yeah.
Which means Queen of Hell. And I think a big part of what this whole process is that we're seeing and what they theorize, and I agree with this, is that what Lumon represents is the workplace being a hell for a lot of people in society, but also this severed floor being one of the 7 layers of hell going downward. Like they take an elevator downward, and the fact that she has this role, and like I don't think it's also very cultish. Like they're always saying praise here, and there was even like it's like even Milchick's license plate. It means his license plate. What it says underneath, it's Latin for a cure for mankind. So it's all playing into this whole cultish hellscape of how they want. It's basically like a workplace slavery is like the way that they're treating these characters. And I think you're starting to see that they're in like major damage control because they're realizing that like the reality is if these people, these severed beings don't continuously go back to where they're supposed to go, it's all going to fall apart. And we see at the end of the last week's episode that, I believe it's called, what is it called? Cold Harbor? Yes, Cold Harbor is this project. And they show at the end of last week's episode that it says Mark S's thing is 68% complete. And then it says the same thing for Miss Casey with the 68% complete. And part of it could play into the fact that obviously she's dead. They're looking for something like immortality, something that's like deeper and something that feels like it's a part of an alternate universe. I have a lot more things on it.
Okay.
I know. I'm diving.
I'm gonna just so I don't know if it's like alternate universe. I think it's kind of in the same realm, but I'm thinking it's more of just cloning.
I think it's cloning, but I think that so basically I'm saying I think the show operates in a different, like an alternate universe to what we're accustomed to, even though it looks like it's science fiction, obviously, but like they're still like, there's a lot of things that are correlating to like the human experience. Like there's certain things, like one of the other things, which I missed this, but the people at Screen Crush do such a great job. Like, Mark had a piece of mail that said he was in the state that was PE. Mm-hmm. Now, PE doesn't exist in the United States. There is no state accreditation that goes by PE. There's nothing for that, like an acronym. And they also say in the Lumon video that Lumon operates in 206 countries, but in the United States, there's 195. So it's doing things specifically to try to get people to catch on to maybe this is not Earth, or this is not like, or it's Earth adjacent or whatever it might be.
Well, even like, I don't know, there's just small details of like all the cars like in the parking lot are all the same type of car, and they're like an older, I don't know what year. 70s. I don't know what type of year. I don't know what year, but it's all
they're not modern cars.
No, they're not modern, and they're all the same exact car, just in different colors. So you know, all right, something's up. Like obviously, we're not talking about like a normal like 2025 time frame. Yeah.
And I think the one interesting thing, and this is the real thing I have, like, I guess my question to you guys too, because so much what we've seen over the first season and now is like how the innies always correlate to like Kier's, what it all matters to Kier, right? Like praise Kier. We have to follow his thing. And that's very cultish, obviously, right? But we see in this episode that Helena and Milchick also are like by the guide of his hand. Like they also believe in this whole cult. It's not something that's like a front for the innies.
Yeah.
Like this is something that everybody at Lumon believes in. So that cultish aspect of it, like I'm curious on what you think that could mean going forward and your theory on that.
I don't know if I buy into it being as like a cult. Okay. I think it's more just power. Like I think that they're looking to complete something, which it is. They say like we need to get Cold Harbor completed, which is why they need Mark back.
Yes.
So I don't know if it's necessarily like a cult that they want to keep these people in the cult, or if that they're looking to achieve something and be the first people to ever achieve that.
But then they'd be able to bring in more people for their experiments, and for if they can prove that whatever they're trying to do is feasible and they can get it done with Mark's help, then they can get more people to jump on board with these things, because they're looked at as like you can see it even in the interview with Dylan's character. Like people in the outside world don't agree with people that have gone through the severance process.
Yeah.
So I think they're trying to get people on board with what they're doing. And I agree with you. I think what they're trying to accomplish is cloning.
Yeah.
Or taking the consciousness of somebody in their brain and putting it in another synthetic body or whatever that might be.
Yes.
Is my thought process.
Which, I think it has to do with cloning at the end of the day, because then you also have the goats from season 1. And like everybody knows that if you're trying to like do some like weird testing stuff, you're using like goats or sheep essentially.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'm totally on board with you with the whole like it's a heavy cult. I think that when tech companies get this big, it turns a little bit cultish, just because of like you have to believe in like what we're achieving, what we're working toward. But I don't know if like they're all wearing robes and like
I don't know if it would be
I don't know if it's like a cult where they're all like, oh, we bow down and like worship. I think that it's more they've been trained like we are working for the better of humanity and you need to work towards that.
But that's kind of a cult. They're doing it for the betterment of Kier. Like it's. Do you agree with me?
I don't know if that's a cult. Though,
we need Mikey. We need Mikey's.
Because you could say that about any company in the world. Then you could say that about Apple. Like, oh, we're trying to work toward a higher level of technology for the human race.
But do they say praise Apple? Like they're following a figurehead. Like
when did they say praise Kier though? I must have missed that.
Well, she also, when he asked, "What do you want me to do?" She says, "Let Kier guide you by the like." I forget exactly what the quote is, but she's like, let Kier guide you by your hand or something. Like it's for the betterment of what Kier believes, which is a cult, essentially. It's like you're doing it for the betterment of what this person believes. And even like it's owned by the Egans, but everybody is in the process of believing what Kier is.
Michael, jump in here with us.
You guys,
we're getting lost a little.
we need your theories right now.
Wow, it's crazy because sitting here listening to you guys, I had none of these theories in my head, so my mind's going crazy right now. All right, a lot of points to tackle right here. I can see both theories as far as a cult and as far as how you address like power, just because with power comes control, and they already kind of have control over a lot of these people. But it is so much cultish, and I think it's like you said, it's like we're seeing like a more advanced version of a cult, like because like I don't want to like get Tesla. I'll just say Tesla. That's an example of something right now that could be looked at. Like I know you threw Apple out there. I'm just saying Tesla because of the times. but I don't know. I just feel like it could be a little bit of both. One thing we're also not really touching that my mind is also now thinking about is the idea of like extraterrestrial activity and things like that. And how do we know that like that's not playing a role into this? Because like you said, like the whole mankind thing, like to address it as mankind is so, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like you have to have some sort of contact outside of Earth to be referring. I don't know. Maybe that's just a scientist
I think they're
term.
trying to achieve immortality. And I think that another part of the reason is like, what is the reasoning? Obviously, we know that Miss Cobell, Mrs. Selvig, is spying on Mark, but she takes an interest with their child. And that could be another part of it where it's like, okay, taking the pureness of a baby and what you'd be able to do with that to achieve immortality, like that can play into theories of what people have talked about that can lead to immortality, like using the youthfulness of a child.
Yeah.
Like it's weird that she was so connected to the baby.
I guess I don't remember her being so attached to the baby.
She's the lactation nurse in the first season. She poses as a lactation nurse. And she even says in the episode.
I don't remember that.
I took that more as like she just needed a way to like get into like their lives.
That's one way of looking at it, but it could have a deeper meaning.
I do agree with the mortality thing because my theory is that so Miss Casey like died, which
they saw her body burn.
Yes.
Mark, so says Persephone.
He says that
or Mark, I guess.
Mark said he's like I identified her, like everything like that. I think that the work that they're doing, you know how like when they were looking at the numbers, they're like, oh, it's all about a feeling of like, this is scary. So you want to get rid of the scary part. Yeah. This is a happy part of what you're feeling. And it takes a minute to figure it out. I think that the data they're looking for is trying to like, in a way, program these new people's like personalities and brains, because if she's already dead, it's not then a severed brain because
they're creating a synthetic brain
like
based
a
on
new
her memories,
brain based off the feelings that they're finding that they're working on through those numbers.
And it's really just Mark that's doing all the work that matters.
Yes.
And the rest are just
because they're connected through mememories.
Yes. Which that I agree with. Like they need obviously Mark because they need the connective tissue of him to Gemma.
Of memories.
Yes. That I agree with. Definitely.
So that's what I think. But then it's also like, why are they doing all of this? Like for what purpose?
There has to be a purpose.
So then do you think because I saw something where somebody's like, why are they calling it Cold Harbor? Like, why is it called that? And then somebody was like, well, the Cold Harbor was like a battle, I guess, in the Civil War. And so people are like, does it have to do with that? And then my thought was like that promo video that we keep seeing, that we talked about where they're all in that fur.
Okay, yeah.
Does that have to do with this at all? Cold Harbor,
Civil
I don't know.
War? Once I started going down the rabbit hole of the cloning thing, I thought of it as like, again, like if you're a clone or you're trying to put somebody's memories, you're harboring their memories and putting it into what could be a cold body because it's dead.
Okay.
The more I'm like going into the cloning aspect of it, I think it could be a code name for that. That might be too on the nose. It might have multiple meanings. because the show is filled with multiple meanings.
Yeah.
But
So the other thing I didn't really get to address before, I 100% agree with all of this being a cloning sort of scheme. That's like for sure happening. My question though with that to you guys is, like, the clones and the innies at this point still have like their own sort of conscious, like not just conscious, but I feel like they're like their own person at this.
the innies and the outies.
100%.
You know
They're
what I'm
different
saying?
people.
Yeah.
100%. And so like, do you think that's a part of? I'm trying to figure out how to. Like,
I don't think those are clones. I think
No.
the severance process is something that is a program they started to, and they're using Mark as the test subject for
got
the fact that they can utilize this program so we can input Gemma's memories into Miss Casey, and then Miss Casey becomes a created human being from
his memories
Yes.
and like his feelings and his emotions.
Yes.
got you
Because he's looking at those numbers and like pulling out like, oh, that's a scary like area, pull that out.
But I do think there's so many references to the separate lives part of it that I also think that plays such a major part in it.
I
Like,
know. And
there's a lot of symbolism that I've seen. Like, you were talking about things in the first episode. This episode now I was like looking for it and I saw so many
there's a
things.
lot.
There's a lot.
Well, something though that I thought was interesting is so like Helly and Helena, very different personalities. And we got to see that in like this episode a lot, I
Yes.
feel like. But then Dylan, I think that his personality, innie and outie, are very similar.
Mhm.
Like when he's like doing the interview.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of. I think that's just kind of his character. I think his character is a bit aloof, and I think he.
Do you think that just has to do with the acting, not necessarily?
No, not even
writing?
the acting. I just think that's like I think there's going to be something bigger that happens with Dylan down the road, but I don't think we're there yet.
Because,
He's going to have like a big right now. Like season 1, we saw a lot with Mark, and we're going to still see more with Mark. But I think season 2 is going to focus a lot on Helena and Helly. Like not necessarily being the central figure because they're all main cogs in this thing, but like so much of what Mark figured out in the first season is that real severing of two different beings. What you were talking about with Helena, like with the scene where Helena's going back and watching Helly kiss Mark like over and over, it's kind of acting as if like she's jealous of her innie for the life that she's living, and Helena's trapped in this like this corporate machine of like having to do what her father says, and I mean he's not happy.
Do we still think that it's Helly or Helena currently?
Oh, it's Helena. It's fully Helena.
Even though there was one moment she looked a little like sad though at the end when she was going down the elevator.
I think it's because she's afraid of. She's going in as Helena. I don't think she's becoming Helly at that point.
You don't think so?
No, it's fully Helena. I'm fully convinced that
was my theory too.
That's Helena now going in that process as Helena, and she's putting on an act. I think, and that plays into what you said last.
I don't know.
week,
She just looked a little sad going down. Where I was like, so is she not?
I think it is Helena, but I do think that, and this is where it kind of plays into all of them. All right, I think that they are separate, if that makes sense, but there's an attachment somewhere in there, and so Helena might be a different case scenario because I do think it's Helena in there. I don't really know, and I think that to your point, maybe it is like Helly and Helena just have like sort
more of a connection.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly, but. At the same time, I don't know, it makes you think about these other characters, and like that's why I was so interested in Irv with this. Irving, because like how you said, like Dylan, like he's the same sort of in and out. Irving, I feel like, especially in season 1, was the biggest sort of like reveal of like, oh, his innie and outie are not the same at all. And you're starting to see how like it is affecting now on the inside. But they had that whole big break where like they're obviously like they clashed, something like that. So like I don't know, my mind's going crazy trying to think of this.
There's so much talk about.
It is. But like I don't know. I just feel like I agree with what I don't know.
You think like
exactly
Helly and Helena are a little bit more like connected than necessarily like Irving and his innie and outie.
I do, but I do think that there's still a lot of connection with it. Yeah. I mean,
no, I because I understand what you're saying. Well, the other thing is like you see Helena grab at her neck a lot, and that's because Helly had a suicide attempt.
Yeah.
Like It's still the same
Well,
body.
but so that's
Like,
what makes me think, because
You think-
I was totally on board. I was like, that's totally Helena down there. But there was something about her like looking scared and like almost sad going back in that elevator that I was like, is it actually Helly that's down there?
I think she doesn't want to get attached to Mark. I think at the end of the day, regardless, one of the biggest things that's going to play into this, whether you like this or you're not, is that there's going to be a love triangle aspect of it with Gemma, Miss Casey, and Helly and Helena. Like, they actually show that in, like, there's one of the things that shows you in the animated preview when he's like on the water, and then you see like underneath him, Helly runs one way and Gemma runs the other, and he's like looking both ways. So that's obviously going to play a major thing. But I think so much of it is like Helena.
You think she already has an attraction to Mark
100%.
without even having met him?
I think more than having an attraction to Mark, I think she has an attraction to the life of Helly and what that looks like, and that's more fulfilling than her current life as Helena.
I think she has the attraction to Mark, and that's that little detail that's connecting Helly and Helena, and that
in the inside world and outside world.
And we watched that kind of like trigger in the moment where like she realized, and that's so I think that it is again like it's separate. But I think Mark for her right now is the
connected tissue.
Exactly.
Maybe. I don't know though, because okay, so if it is Helena down in the innie world, she then says she's like, we owe the outies nothing. Like we're different than them. Like we don't owe them anything.
I think she means that as Helena. I think she hates the outies. She hates working for Lumon, having to do what her family says.
You think?
100%.
I don't get that vibe.
She literally 100%.
I don't get that vibe.
This conversation,
especially with the way that what her father says to her, how disappointed he is.
I think that's different though. I think that she could hate her father, but I think that she still loves that power. I mean, you saw how much she was sitting again next to like across from Cobell and being like, we want to give you a promotion, and like was totally power driving that whole conversation. You're telling me she doesn't like that? If she didn't, she wouldn't do it.
I mean, regardless of whether she likes it or not, she doesn't like it as much as she likes what she created with Helly. I don't think. That's my thought process. You can disagree, but that's where
I don't think she hates like her life.
I don't know if she hates. Yeah, I mean, again, I guess it is hating her life. Again, the whole thing is that it's symbolic of like everyone's life is work. Like in this world, like, and her whole life is work. She goes to work outside the world running this terrible fucking company. She goes in doing things that she doesn't want to do. She's essentially another test subject within her family. Like, I don't think she's happy with what's happening.
But okay, so like, I think
she was on board in the beginning, but I think she's the only one that's lived it.
Well, I think it's also to show that like the Severance life is not a happy life. To not know what you're doing for work and like what your life is like is not actually like content. And so I think that's where her unhappiness comes in, is living two separate lives. But like she didn't want to go back. You know, when they had fired everybody and then they were like, okay, in order to get Mark back, like everybody's going back, especially Helly.
Yeah.
And she like was like, yeah, I'm going to do this. And that's why I think she's like sad and like upset, because she doesn't want to go back to Helly. She's like, fuck that girl. She tried to kill me.
That could be part of it too. I'm not completely discounting that theory.
I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. But I do want to, okay, I kind of want to get off this like rant, and I want to talk about,
you started the
I know
rant,
I did. I want to talk about two things. Okay. First of all, Bert.
Following Irv.
What are our thoughts? What are our theories? Do you think
Bert just wanted some tail, man?
But do you think he saw him? Do you think they've talked before?
I think so. We don't see. All right. So here's the other thing.
What's the theory?
We see the aftermath of what happens with Mark's outie. We see the aftermath of what happens with Helly's outie, or Helena,
that she pretty much like
ruined everything. And I don't know if we do for Dylan, but Dylan was. Oh yeah, we do. They show Dylan leaving with the ice pack,
but we
don't see where Irving ends up, because the last thing we see in season 1 is Irv banging on Bert's door, screaming his name. So they had to have met each other in that moment, because the next time we see Irv as an outie, he answers the door for Milchick. So I think
and totally is just like, well, I was here, like What, like total
he's the
lies.
only one like lying completely. Well, I mean, Mark I guess is lying too, but Irv is like blatantly lying, and like we have no idea how he even ended up back in his apartment.
Yeah. But
So-
Mark's just like, I just don't want to talk to you. And
Yeah.
like, I don't want to do this anymore.
But then he's like 20% raise.
Yeah, and
All
he's
right.
like, ooh, and I'm in love down there. He's like, get me down there.
Seriously. No, I think that they've met. I think they've met and we just haven't seen it yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I loved that moment. It was really good. But Irving's character has like a lot going on because he's like talking in the phone booth. I don't know, he's a weird guy, but he's got a lot going on.
He does have a lot going on. I have a feeling Irv might die at the end of the season.
By his own hand,
I don't know.
or
But I have a feeling that he might
Like-
be our first like real. I mean, I don't know. I think someone's gonna have to die at some point. It's sci-fi, and I think that he's the one that would make the most sense just based on 2 episodes. The way that I feel like it's progressing,
Mhm.
but I don't know. They're gonna have to have an interaction at some point. Bert and Irving.
or we see the one that they already had.
That's possible.
Like at one
too.
point, we're gonna have to see what
You
that.
think we're not gonna get any more advancement of that? You think Bert's gonna be like, I don't know who you are. I don't want anything to do with this.
What do you mean?
Do you think that like because you're saying we have to see what came before that moment, right? So do you think that interaction between the two of them was something where like Irving was expecting one thing and Bert was like, I'm not, like, I don't want anything to do with
I
you.
don't think that they interacted as Irving being an innie. I think that he switched before they saw each other.
Yeah.
But Bert, being on the outside, probably saw like the change going on, maybe. Because then you
Ooh.
also see Irving after he like Milchek leaves, he like pulls out the like Bert like map in his pocket and like stares at it for a second. So like they definitely had some sort of interaction.
Yeah, I would think so.
And
Do you think there's going to be more from them?
yeah,
You
I
do?
think there's the second half of this season is going to be heavy on Irving because he's the only one drawing those drawings. We haven't even talked about like we haven't gotten anything with that hallway thing yet.
Yeah.
And yet he's the only one like visioning it. We also haven't gotten a lot of his outie, but his outie is the one that's like doing all this work to connect the dots and like meet people that have already left or are still involved in
Yeah.
it.
Mhm.
Okay.
I think that as far as his character, first of all, Bert showing up was crazy.
Mhm.
So nice, so nice. But I do think to not disagree,
Disagree,
but
Michael.
I do think that we will see that in the part for the interaction that we missed as far as the Irving and Bert that interaction that we missed. I don't think we're gonna have any other interaction moving forward between the two of them.
That's kind of where I'm at too.
Really?
I think so. I think that whatever happened, I 100% agree with your point to maybe he switched. I really like that idea. And just the theories that can come out of that interaction now, I feel like could be really good. I could see something like that happening. And I feel like where we're seeing him right now with his innie is so like, I'm done. Like, I'm so over it. I think he's at a place where it makes sense if something bad happened between that kind of signified that there's nothing happening there.
Mhm.
And he's kind of at a place where like, because he's seen both sides, he realized what's the point anymore. Hence why I do agree to your point that I do think that he might die sometime soon because he's at that point. I also feel like, and this is why I'm so intrigued with his character, I feel like there's so much to his story we have, like you said, that we have not seen, that there's no need to necessarily show any story after this. They could just realistically reveal everything that just there's so much, like you said. We could just get all the reveal up to this point of him kind of being at like this, like, I'm done, I'm over it. And then we get that moment of like maybe like a sacrifice or
That's
maybe like,
exactly what I think. It's
You know,
gonna be.
it's
I
that-
think it's 100% going to be sacrificial.
You don't think they interact
I-
at all?
I
But then
think
what's
they'll
the point of
I
showing
think they'll have.
Bert?
I think they'll have a more interaction, but I think it's going to be something where he's hoping for one thing and it's going to be something entirely different. And I think he's not going to know how to
But
handle
how? Because then that means his innie has to be on the outside somehow again, which they're not going to allow. Lumon's never going to let that
it.
happen.
No,
again.
I think it's going to be more of like a feeling thing, like the same way that like Mark can understand that there's a feeling, like that thing kind of you were talking about, that there's a connective aspect of like a feeling. with
So like
something.
you think the
Yeah.
outie Irving?
I think Outie Irving is going to come to his senses that he has some sort of feeling for this man. He's going to connect the dots somehow.
Mm.
It's not going to be as blatant as like knowing, but I think it's going to be something. And then Bert's going to be like I think Irving's going to come to him and be like, I think that I feel like I know you. Like there's a
Really?
sense of me that and I think Bert's going to be like,
I feel like he's gonna be like, can you help me like figure out what's going on in there? Like I'm drawing all these paintings. Like I feel like he's gonna reach out to him and be like, for some reason I have a connection with you. Will you help me with this?
It's possible.
Because his outies, he is off the rocker. If I woke up every day and I was just like drawing these paintings over and over again, get me help. Like something's wrong.
He's been doing it for a long time.
A long time. And so if he all of a sudden realizes that like he clearly has a connection with this person, like maybe he's like, okay, maybe I can trust you. But I don't know. Bert looked a little intimidating in that shot.
Yeah, I don't think Bert is the key to that. I think the key to that is everybody else on the outside.
Interesting.
Is Dylan and Mark Scout and eventually Helena, even though you disagree.
I don't know if the outside, if they're ever going to connect on that outworld.
They have to. You think the innie world is them with all their stuff on? I don't.
I do.
Okay.
I do.
So we disagree there.
I do. I think the innies are wearing the furs.
Okay. I think the outies are the furries. That's where I'm at.
Okay.
You had another question. There was two things.
The ending with Colbell.
Oh yeah, she's just a nut.
Do we? Think
I have
we
no
get
theory
more
on
of
any of
her?
that.
Do we think that was the final? She's a total freak. Do we get more? She's a total freak.
Just Arquette is like the godsend.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Do we get anything else? Is it just that's her ending? Hurrah is her scream.
Do you have anything on that?
If that is her ending, that would be great.
It's just screaming.
It's like, wow, what a performance. No, I don't think it's her ending.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that there's some more to her character that's left to be revealed, backstory wise as well. I think that we might not see her for a little bit, but she might go off somewhere and do something somewhere else that plays into her having to come back, or just her something that affects Lumon, or maybe seeing the position that she was put in this episode, like fallout of season 1 and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like she might know a little bit more now, and like she's in a better position to maybe like fight back or do something of that sort. Or I just don't think it's the end of her.
Yeah, I have no theories on any of it, but I don't think it's the end.
Okay.
I think we'll see her again. It might only be once or twice more, but and I do think that Gwendolyn Christie might be somebody that comes in to reestablish that scary female antagonistic role, based on like the one image they have of her. But she's also like a very staggeringly tall, intimidating woman, and I think that could play into something going forward. Because we still haven't seen her character.
Yeah.
We do see Bob Balaban getting fired, by the way, which I thought was funny. He's like, I sold a property in Grand Rapids for 3 days. Fuck you guys at Lumon. That is awesome. But it is a fun episode.
It was a good episode.
There's a lot to think about. I mean, I love that this is a show that can revolve around so much conversation and so much theorizing. That's what's so fun about this show.
And we could all be wrong.
We could all be wrong about
but
it's
everything.
not only that, it's just that also the quality is so good, like week to week. Like it's not something where like, this is not to shit on House of the Dragon, but like House of the Dragon was something where like week to week we were like, I don't know where they're gonna go, but I'm excited about it. And then it came to the time we were like, wow, this isn't really that good. They have no plan.
Yeah.
Like it. And by the way, the show already got renewed for season 3.
I know.
So we know we're getting at least 3 seasons of the show. We're not going to get a conclusive thing at the end of this, which is another part of the reason why I think we're going to have something big happen at the end of the season. I think it's going to be a sacrifice.
Well, I do hope that. I hope they don't just keep dragging it out and dragging it out and dragging it out to hold the whole story for season 3. I hope they give us something.
Yeah. But
we'll
this
see.
was fun. This was a good
see.
time. Lots of theories, lots of things to think about. Let us know in the comments, what are some of your guys' theories coming off of Severance episode 2 of season 2? Some of your thoughts going forward. Do you agree with Liz? Do you agree with me? Do you agree with Michael? Do you agree with some of us? None of us? Whatever. Let us know in the comments. We'd love to start talking about it with you guys in the community. We're going to be covering this show for the next 8 weeks after this. We love talking about it. Clearly, we're big fans of this show. And shout out to Apple TV Plus for continuously putting on such a great show. Give this video a like if you guys can. Comment your thoughts. And if you guys can subscribe to us here at the Culture Wave Media Network. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. We're going to be starting to do live streams soon, so you guys can send in super chats and stuff. But in the meantime, we're trying to achieve a lot of great stuff here at Culture Wave, and we're covering movies and TV all the time for you guys. We record multiple times a week and we're doing it all for you. So thank you guys for who's already subscribed, and hopefully we get some new subscribers from this as well. You guys can also follow us on all our social media. All that stuff is below me in the video right now, and also all our handles are in the description. Just signing off, I am Darian Scalamoni.
I'm Liz Seiko.
And I'm Mikey Peniston.
And we'll see you guys next time.
This is The Culture.